Hey, welcome back to the Unconnoisseur channel, everybody. I'm your co host, Drew. Now we're going to finish with part B of the interview. This second half is going to address a couple of more questions that we were really curious about, as well as wrap up with some final information on it. Hopefully, you've taken the opportunity to listen to part A. If not, the link is going to be above here. Take a listen to the questions that we get into, as well as take some notes. I'm sure that in the weeks to come, Matt and I are going to have a recap about the information that we gleaned from him. This will be information that was deeper than I think we had anticipated. And so for us, the notes will continue and we'll dialogue about some of that. We did appreciate having Dad on the channel. Dad, thank you so much again for your time that night. Sorry that Purdue did not win that game, but it was exciting to catch into that. Matt, I knew you were excited to get out as well. So both of you, thank you for your time. Thanks for getting the equipment set up in your studio out there. And Dad, thanks again for your time. Without further ado.
Was your time in the service influential at all to your musical taste or your career choice?
Not my career choice, really. Because I'd already been in college to study to be a pastor. But it did help set the tone for some of the music I appreciated while I was in, especially in Korea. Mm-hmm. I fell in love with Chicago.
Right?
I mean, Chicago, I listened to it almost every day. Mm-hmm. Back then, a couple of the guys had reel-to-reel.
Yeah.
Tapes, I mean, big
tapes, yeah.
And they had systems that just would blow you away. They wouldn't so much anymore, but boy, they sure did back then. And they could crank it up, and Chicago would come on and
yeah,
I could get into that. I could get away,
right?
Really,
yeah.
So Chicago was
talking Chicago in the late '60s,
yeah,
early '70s,
early '70s,
early '70s, yeah,
early '70s.
So the real hardcore.
Yeah, Chicago.
Yeah.
I still have a lot of their albums on my computer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we've seen him live.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, we saw him live. That was awesome, wasn't it?
Was really
yeah. Cool. We were way up in the balcony, but
but
we could dance up there.
Oh, yeah.
You got out of your seat a couple of times.
You pulled me up. That's all. You told me to get up.
That's
I
true.
Do what you tell me to.
Other than Chicago, were there other influences, or I don't know if the word that I put in here, idols, were there people that you thought, man, I really would like to see a concert, or I want to listen to it? And I'm going to ask something after that question, but.
Yes, but let's put in context how old I am. Okay, I'm older than you guys.
Right.
So,
and we're old. So were rainbows black and white?
They were. And the Dead Sea was just sick.
Dead Sea was just sick.
So think about this. Buddy Holly, the Everly Brothers, man, they were so cool. They were the best.
Yeah.
And the Everly Brothers, I still listen to some of their stuff. So the early '60s, '65 to and that kind of an era. They were. Now Elvis, I didn't get into Elvis.
Well,
much.
I didn't get into Bieber, and so I can completely see how you kind of skate around Elvis.
Yeah.
I didn't get into Bieber like Drew did. That's what I meant.
Who?
You.
Who was the artist that did Great Balls of Fire?
Jerry Lee Lewis.
Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah.
I still, in my mind, I can still see him playing, standing up, jumping up and down on the piano, singing, goodness gracious.
Great Balls of Fire.
Oh, man, that was fun. That was fun.
In your years working at Lifeline Homes, how did you help find balance between the youth and the leaders? And how does it apply to listening? And as far as balance goes, the balance between your personal life and your work life there, because basically we were there 24/7. So did you ever take a break? Yeah, go ahead. What?
Yeah, not only that balance, but just in general, after being a house parent and being the director of Lifeline Homes, I was a kid and I'd watch you go in and you had counselors there meeting with kids. You had house parents there that were working 24/7 with kids. And then going back to what Matt just said with with being house parents, you guys were on 24 hours a day with 10 delinquent boys. How did you find balance?
Yes. And I like that question because it helped me learn to delegate that and realize that I wasn't the only person that's responsible for every decision that's made. I had people, when I became the director, I had people around me who I trusted, who I knew could solve, and I trusted them explicitly, implicitly, and anticipated that they could cover my weaknesses. So delegating was significant for me. I still don't have all the answers. I know you're surprised at that. Still don't always know what I'm doing.
That's all right.
But I have people around me who I can lean into.
Mm-hmm.
I can ask questions of. You guys remember our friends from Wisconsin?
Mm-hmm.
Not this weekend, but next weekend. Back from 1972,
Mm-hmm.
they would come out once a week and we would eat tacos and play rook.
Yeah. Hi, Jim. Hi, Karen.
Jim Cameraman.
Not this coming weekend, but following, we're going to go to Ottawa, Illinois, and spend the weekend with them.
That's awesome.
And so they would come out and we would just let our hair down and just laugh and play. They taught us how to eat tacos back in 1970.
Thank you, Jim. I love tacos.
Right.
Yeah. So that was a big deal.
Yeah.
So I had people around me that I could lean into
Mm-hmm.
and draw from some of their strength and their wisdom. So, yeah.
It reminds me of a story, if you don't mind. A jazz story. I'm going to relate this to jazz. I remember Miles. I don't remember it because I wasn't there, but I remember reading that Miles was on stage. Herbie played a wrong note during a solo one time, and Miles turned around, and Herbie thought he was going to be in trouble. And Miles actually took that wrong note and made a whole complete solo out of it and made something beautiful out of chaos, out of the wrong note, right, Drew?
Yep.
And so, Miles leaned on Herbie. Herbie was afraid that he wasn't doing it right, and Miles turned it into something amazing with that one wrong note. So you don't have all the answers, but you have people to lean on that do have the answers or can help you guide you to the right answer.
You guys are covering this stuff pretty good, aren't you? I'm learning so much.
We are learning. So thank you, Jerry Coker.
I commend you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Lily.
Hi, Lily.
We've got another special guest with us tonight.
Hi, Lily.
Hi, Lily. We got another special guest with us tonight.
How special.
You're making your appearance on the Unconnoisseur channel. Yeah, well, thank you so much.
That's a big deal to see you and interact with you like this.
It's good to see your face.
And I understand that you are one of the persons that was an impetus who helped start this whole interaction between your dad and Uncle Matt. Because you play a mean saxophone.
Yeah, I
do. Yeah.
Yep.
It's all your fault, Lily. I say that in a good way too. You know that, right?
I know that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're joining us tonight.
Yeah. So am I.
Yeah.
So what's it like for you to learn and are learning to play the saxophone? Is it a challenge?
It was a challenge at first. I think it's become easier since I played it longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate there'll be a time when you're going to be in like an independent band and be on stage playing in front of large crowds?
Maybe. I mean, I really haven't thought about my future with playing the saxophone, but I might.
I'll bet you want to play a tuba.
I couldn't hear that.
I'm going to play the tuba.
Lily, what's the hardest part about learning to play the saxophone, would you say?
I think when I was first starting, it was just learning like the fingerings and stuff. But now, honestly, I might say like the memorization of stuff.
Yeah.
It's something that I've struggled with. But yeah.
Did it seem overwhelming to you when you first picked up the instrument and said, I want to learn to play this? Did it seem a little overwhelming? Like,
definitely.
Man, there's so much to learn that maybe I'll never learn it all.
Yeah, it was pretty overwhelming at first, but as I learned how to play it, it got easier.
So Lily, you're part of a jazz group on Sunday night, correct?
Correct, I am.
And do you have a favorite jazz artist that you like to listen to?
Recently, I've really enjoyed listening to Chet Baker.
Despite what your dad says, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Would you recommend I start listening to some of Chet's music?
Yeah, I think you might like it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a trumpet player.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you would enjoy his singing, but
he also sings.
Okay.
I have grown to really appreciate his phrasing in his songs as he sings. So I'm paying attention to that. I'm learning.
Right. And sometimes he actually sings better than he plays the trumpet.
sometimes.
Right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
You done?
Bye, Lily.
Bye, Lily. Thank you for joining us. Wow, that was a super special guest.
Yes.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
Super special guest.
What a super kid.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get on to the next question. Would you describe the lifelong journey of counseling as your calling?
I think so, but it's not something that came immediately. It was a process that I had to move into. Though I did have to listen and engage with folks and the church. And situations within the church neighborhood. Then I moved to being at Lifeline, and I had to listen to a lot of stories of the kids. Then obviously getting the license as a marriage and family therapist, and it grew from there to where I feel now like I'm definitely in my calling. I enjoyed preaching. I didn't enjoy studying to preach. That was never my calling. But I enjoyed preaching in smaller groups, smaller congregations, but not comfortable in larger congregations. So I grew into the counseling and feel like now I'm where God had called me to be. And it's a very joyful, encouraging place. It's a place where I feel like I'm good at. Obviously, always need to learn and grow, like we all do with whatever we're faced with.
Beyond counseling, you've guided others along that process. I know that for a while, but you worked at a local college getting other people certified, right? I don't know how to word that process.
That's correct. After I got my license, then I started, it's called supervision. And so I would have people from various colleges who are working on their master's degree who would need at least 9 months of supervision. So somebody like myself with a license, these were fledgling novices who were coming into the process of being therapists. So they needed and required somebody with my degree to supervise them through this process. It was part of their education. So, oh man, I started, supervising a lot of. There was probably a time when I had supervised 4 or 5 interns at a time, and then I started. I cut back. I was doing 1 or 2 at a time, and then just last year, a year and a half ago, I decided I didn't need to do that anymore because I wanted to get closer to retirement.
Yeah.
And so, I cut back on that. I'm not supervising anyone anymore.
So just out of my own personal curiosity, did you have to sit in with sessions with the people that they're counseling and the counselor, or did you get transcripts or?
I did that only several times, but when I supervised students at the Indiana Purdue Fort Wayne Extension here, they were in a room. The counselors were in a room meeting with either a couple or individuals, and I could go on video.
Okay.
And I could watch them on video.
Okay.
And then write notes.
So it's not direct feedback, like don't tell that guy to do that.
If there was a problem, I could get into their audio, and tell them to come back, and we needed to talk.
Okay.
I did that only once or twice because these were people that were very capable.
Right.
Very capable.
Yeah, sure.
And so I want to ask about that same concept of things. You have your own style when you work with somebody. You like to ask the questions, and I tease this all the time. We're going to ask you your question in a little bit, but Mom would say, build a bridge and get over this. And you would say, how does that make you feel, right? What's it like? What's it like to listen to someone counsel who might do things differently than you, both in their approach, their questions, and even in their ability to let the answer breathe or go on for a little bit? What was that like?
Again, it goes back to trust factor. It goes back to anticipating that they've had different training than I've had.
Experience.
Mm-hmm. And then the fact that there's some really smart people out there, and I'm no smarter or no dumber than the next person. So I had to trust their intuition and trust their perspective, so that really what it boils down to, therapy, counseling, it boils down to relationship. And can I build a relationship with the counselee? Can I feel like I'm with them? Can I feel as though I understand the music they're playing?
Mm-hmm.
I can listen to it. I can engage in it. I can be part of it. I don't have to understand all of it, but I can relate to them and their story.
Art Ensemble in Chicago.
Again.
Yeah, sorry.
Therapy is more about the alliance you build with the person than the technique, than the skill, than the words. Because it's a matter of feeling what's inside, trying to get inside what the person is really struggling with, and how best to relate to them so that they know I'm with them. I am with them. And that there's a book I read, part of it suggested being with them. So it's a withness.
A withness.
Withness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you guys experience that when you're listening to jazz. You are with that music. You are with that artist. You are with each piece that's being played. You are with that, and you can differentiate between the sax, the trumpet, the synthesizer.
Yeah, but we, because we can listen to it multiple times, though, we have the opportunity of selecting maybe what we want to hear this time through and what we want to hear next time through. You know, Drew and I have had discussions like, I didn't even hear the drums in that piece. So we go back and you'll focus on listening to what the drums are doing, you don't get that opportunity. You're in front of them, and what they're giving you is what you got. And you've got to take all of that immediately.
And that's one of the reasons I try to encourage. Will this be the tape? I try to have encouraged your mama to get away from build a bridge and get over it, to listen to the story, listen to what's going on underneath what they're saying. So be with them. Mm-hmm. The witness thing is a big deal.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to ask is, are there keys that you're listening for? Are there phrases that you're waiting to hear? Are there, when somebody begins to tell you their story about how they got to where they are, you've asked questions, but in their questions, are there key words that trigger you to think, I could ask that question next, or I should be listening for something that they aren't telling me? In counseling, I would always assume that they're not going to tell you what's really going on. There's
not
undercurrent.
Always. Yeah, there's typically an undercurrent. In fact, I just talked with somebody a couple of weeks ago who has been in counseling for years, and she's part of a client in our Nehemiah Partners program, and she had never told her partner, but I'm talking with her, engaging with her, and she tells me a very painful secret she's carried for 60 years, and felt like she couldn't trust anybody to share that with. And again, it has to do with, I want to be with her as she shares that part of the story. I didn't want her to go into the depth of it because I wanted her to talk to a woman about it. Mm-hmm. Though I addressed that with some other women, that loss of innocence. Mm-hmm. There's another part of your question that I'm missing.
No, I think you've touched on that because it's
you asked me about what I listened for.
Yeah.
And some of the books I've read a few. I read books, I know things. Have you heard that before? I listen for the wounds that the person is identifying. We've all been wounded in one way or another anyway. And from the wounds, and this is from a book written by Marcus Warner, wounds lead to lies. I believe a lie about myself, which leads us to make vows against that lie. And that becomes our lifestyle, basically. That becomes a stronghold. So wounds, lies, vows, and strongholds. And I listen for that. I might ask a simple, curious question, and it leads the person to list out all the lies that they begin to believe about themselves, about other people, about God. And that affords me an opportunity then to go back through that. What was that wound really all about? Mm-hmm. So that's pretty simple, really. And anybody can do that.
But no, not anybody can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's partly why I wanted to talk to you about a lot of this anyways. Not anybody can truly listen for that content. Not everybody can listen with the heart to care. And then when they do find a way, it's not just about talking, it's about guiding to the next step. Some of that comes with repetition, hours of listening to people. Some of it comes with just the desire. I mean, let's face that, it's a lot of desire to do that. So I want to clarify that not everybody can.
So in my job, in my profession, when I deal with people, they sometimes say to me, "Man, I wouldn't want to do what you do. I hate computers, and I would not want to do that at all." Has any of the people who you are mentoring, have they ever said that? Like, I can't do this. Has anybody ever just, or have you told anyone maybe this isn't for you?
Only a couple of times, but there were a couple of I was supervising a couple of different people, and about 2/3 of the way through the process, the one gal said, "I think I'd rather just be a receptionist. I don't like this. I'm uncomfortable," and she dropped out.
Yeah,
she dropped out, which was very wise of her to do.
Sure.
I saw her a year or so after that, and she was very satisfied with the decision she made. The majority of people I supervised, they were gung-ho. They were ready to go at it. And many of them are very successful now.
Yeah.
Not not just because of me, but I helped the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, we got.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
So we got a couple more here, but I want to ask this first. You just touched on this. In your opinion, what could help people find balance in their personal space and relationships with others? We talked about it with your marriage counseling. Would you recommend an album, or would you preach on? And Gregory Porter was the answer. In your opinion, what could help people find balance in their personal life and in relationships with others?
I don't know how to answer that because the first word that comes to my mind is boundaries. Boundaries have to be set. If I'm working with somebody, I don't want to give them my cell phone number, my email. I don't do Facebook, so I can't be part of their Facebook family. I want to set boundaries so that I have my own personal time, my own personal space. I set boundaries that somebody asked me just yesterday if I could meet with them Friday. No, I don't meet with people Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I think I mentioned that before. So I have to set space for myself. The space, it would be nice to spend a little more time with the Rices here in Fort Wayne, and definitely find time to meet with my middle son because he feels so badly that he's a middle child.
That's a lifelong feeling. I'm getting over it.
That's a whole nother episode of middle child syndrome.
Just got here in the wings. It does.
Boundaries is important for any and all of us. How much am I going to put up with from somebody who's upset and they're throwing their stuff at me? And when do I say enough is enough? Regardless of what the situation is, we have to establish boundaries, and that spares us from reacting
or overexerting.
Yes, and it really helps set the person who's really upset with us and whatever, yelling, screaming. We have to say, no, stop. This is a boundary you've crossed. So that, I don't know if that
is that it is about setting them, understanding them, and understanding that others have those boundaries as well. And then as far as your personal life, being able and confident to set a boundary. Is that about fair there to say that?
Yeah, I think it is. The question I would have for you guys in terms of jazz, do jazz artists set boundaries for their group? It sounds like not necessarily, because if I'm playing, like you said, that example where who made the wrong note.
Yep.
I mean, he crossed a boundary, but because it's jazz, we can, what's the word? Improvise.
Yeah. He's getting it.
Man, he is. Well, and it's interesting
because we're going to turn him into a connoisseur.
He is going to be a connoisseur. We'll bring him back in a year and be like, so the unconnoisseurs now have a connoisseur we can rely on.
That's right.
Oh boy.
But I think it's improv. And I was looking into what we're going to talk about later this week. the Jazz Warriors. We talk about tomorrow's Warriors, but it all started with the Jazz Messengers. Art Blakey was one of those who had some very clear boundaries for his musicians. And it was established from the very beginning. If you're going to play with him, he was a drummer, you're going to play this. And it was very precision oriented what he wanted to do from the Jazz Messengers. And I was just reading about him. 150 plus musicians graduated, quote unquote, graduated from his group. And it spanned 37 years. And that was the Jazz Messengers alone. That was before the Messengers. Everyone who left to do their own thing found some boundaries that they applied into their own. But there is the freedom, as long as we understood, as long as these musicians understood, this is what was required.
So Drew asked right before we had our difficulty, have you read any good books on jazz lately?
Yes. I read almost nonstop. Finding Your Groove.
Finding the Groove.
Man,
yeah,
that book excited me. It just really thrilled me to pieces. The way he presented, what he talked about, how engaging. I can't think of all the good things to say about how this man presented Finding Your Groove from a biblical, but from a jazz perspective, that just opened the door for so many ideas for me. So
the book Finding the Groove is by Robert Galinas. We'll have the picture up here so you can see the book cover. And you know, it's interesting because on our journey, Drew and I have had several discussions about certain artists or certain certain artists not necessarily living the kind of life that we had anticipated that they would be living. And I was really, really struggling with that on a personal level. And Drew, we both had the book already. We had purchased the book and we hadn't started reading it yet. And Drew said, you should start reading this book. I devoured the book in 3 days. I think like you, I read it nonstop. I could not put it down. It was it brought a lot of things into focus for me, biblically through jazz. And I came to the realization that it's okay that some of the artists, they didn't live clean. They weren't family men. They weren't religious. Yeah, I was really struggling until I read that book, though, and it really, literally, kind of turned me around to be able to accept differences. Yeah, who they were. Yeah.
So, Dad, we wanted to wrap this up, but after reading Robert's book, and after even the conversations that you've listened to us to have, I have a very important question for you. How does that make you feel?
Well, I've already given some hint to that because almost every time I talk to somebody, I proudly say to them, you need to check out the Unconnoisseur. Whether you like jazz or not, check these two yahoos out. They're a bunch of Dingledorfs, knuckleheads, goobers, but you gotta check them out. I just hope that half of the people that I recommend you guys to would give you a thumbs up.
Yeah. Well, we went as far as to create a QR code for him to be able to show his phone to for his friends and say, all you gotta do is click here and it'll take you right to the Unconnoisseur YouTube.
Absolutely.
So I guess what I'm saying in answer to your question, I'm proud of you guys that you're doing this. You're on this journey together, and it's creating such a good bond between you that's unbreakable. So I commend you guys for what you're doing here. It's just a good thing because again, relationships are so important, and sibling relationships are some of the most.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How much time do we have left?
Would you like to take us out?
Sure. I sure will. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this special episode with our father, Verlin. I'm making a prediction here that our view count will double on his episode, just based on who he is and his friends. But again, thanks for listening. We hope that you gleaned some information about how to listen, not only in jazz music, but in your daily life, in your personal life. How to listen and respond and improvise even when things don't go exactly like you think. Check us out at the Unconnoisseur on TikTok. I'm on TikTok at the Unconnoisseur. You can email us at theunconnoisseur@gmail.com. Check out the website at theunconnoisseur.com. Drew's working on shorts, so the shorts are coming out every day on YouTube, or they're going to be coming out.
One year they will.
But again, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Dad.
Thank you.
Thanks for the interview. It was amazing to sit here and
it was fun.
Learn from you. Yeah,
It was fun.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us tonight.